Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Martha Simmons with another session of Preaching and Preachers on Facebook Live via Restream. Good afternoon. Going to give people just a few seconds to come on in for what I know is going to be another great broadcast. Come on in. Let me know that you are out there. Come on in. Let me know that you are out there. Let me hit this part too. Okay. And we're also up on YouTube. All right. Come on in. Let me know that you are out there. And good morning to my folk on the West Coast. They always join me early in the morning. Good afternoon to everyone else. Uh, all right, all right. People are coming in slowly but surely. I'm going to talk about a subject that folk are always asking me about. And so I try every year to bring on great people to talk about this topic that matters because we need more people who are writing stuff that we want. We need it for us. Come on in. Come on in. Let me know that you are out there. And when you come in, type in the name of another person. Ronald Floyd, good morning from Tennessee, or good afternoon. All right, type in the name of another person who you know needs to see this broadcast. They can jump on right now, or it'll be on my page for 2 weeks. And so people can watch the replay. For 7.5 years, I've come on Mondays. Interestingly enough, it appears that Wednesday has now become a big viewing day. All right. So let people know it will be on my page for 2 weeks so they can catch the playback or they can catch it on YouTube on my channel. All right. Come on in. Come on in, people. Come on in. Right, I'm seeing people slowly but surely. All right, Gina Ewell, good morning. Good morning. Good to have you with me. All right, come on in, people. Come on in. Come on in. All right, there we go. That's always wait for that big jump. There we go. Rochelle Andrews, good afternoon. Type in the name of another person who you know needs to view this broadcast. They can do it now, or they can view it for 2 weeks up on my page. All right, I see my magic number. Let's go ahead and get started. As always, we are praying for those who are sick, praying for those who are experiencing a season of bereavement, and we're praying for those countries around the world that are facing electoral chaos and difficulties. Okay, we're praying. This is election season around the world, and we're praying for the world as well as our own country. All right, all right, all right. A couple of quick announcements. This Friday, session 2 of Can You Help Me Fix This Sermon? Uh, Last Friday was amazing. It was amazing. And this Friday, Reverend Janice Williams will be my guest professor. And so I'm excited about that. Unfortunately, registration is closed. It is closed. We can only take so many people and actually help people. We're actually fixing sermons as well as teaching the art of preaching. So that's this Friday at 7. Next Monday, the 19th, join me for when the topic will be pastoring small churches. What it means today to pastor a small church. Um, and today, most of our churches across the country are small churches, meaning fewer than 75 members. And then on August the 26th, join me when the entire broadcast will be dedicated to Project 2025. They've quieted down, they've shifted the names, but it's still out there and it's still dangerous. And we're going to talk about it and what we can do about it. What we can do about it. That's August the 26th. Now, let me get to this amazing panel for today. We're going to talk about publishing and getting published and all of the things that go with that. And I've got wonderful guests to help me do that. First, we have Reverend Yvonne Hawkins. She brings nearly 3 decades of diverse experience in publishing, pastoral counseling, and leadership. She is an acquisitions editor at The Fortress Press, and her passion lies in acquiring books that delve into ministry, pastoral theology, social justice, womanism, and church practices. Folk always want to know what is being published. You heard those areas. She has a background as a newspaper journalist, an editor, columnist, freelancer, along with her roles as a chief content officer in Christian education publishing. She received a bachelor's of science from Northwestern. Her bachelor's of science is in journalism from Northwestern University, a master of divinity from Garrett Evangelical Seminary, and a master's of pastoral counseling from Loyola University. And she is now in the doctoral program at Garrett Seminary. Then we have the minister, Katara Washington. Patton. Katara, I'm gonna tell you, see, that's how long I've known her. I knew her before she was Patton. Okay, Katara Washington, Patton. She is the executive editor at Our Daily Bread Publishing and the author of 8 books, including her latest, Navigating the Blues, When to Turn, Where to Turn, When Worry, Anxiety, or Depression Steal Your Hope. She's also the author of a series of books on successful living based on biblical characters. Some of her other books include Inspiration for Christian Teen Girls, The Parable of Jesus coloring book, uh, and it's a devotional too, and Joyous Advent. She has a book on Advent. Every year, folk are looking for Advent books. Look for her. She has worked in the editorial and acquisitions departments at Weekly Reader Corporation, Jet Magazine, Urban Ministries, McGraw-Hill, yes, the African American Pulpit, the Chicago Defender, Tyndale House, and Christian Century Magazine. She graduated summa cum laude from Dillard with a Bachelor's of Arts in Mass Communication. She then earned a Master of Journalism from Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University. She also received a Master of Divinity from Garrett Evangelical Seminary. Last but certainly not least, we have the elder with us, Adrianne Ingrum. Adrianne Ingrum recently joined Serendipity Literary, the highly esteemed Black-owned literary agency, where she now serves as vice president and as a senior agent. Her focus is debut and seasoned writers who explore spirituality, radical cultural change, and self reflection via nonfiction and fiction. Again, listening for those categories. In more than 4 decades in publishing, she has held VP editorial positions at Putnam, Walden Books, Crown Random House, and then she led the startup team for Black Issues Book Review magazine and served as a lead consultant in the development of the Black Expressions Book Club. She is proud to have been a part of the cohort of Black publishing industry professionals who ushered in the Black books boom. I remember that. of the 1980s and 90s. She acquired early books by best-selling authors like B.B. Moore Campbell, cultural influencers Nelson George, who, of course, we remember won the National Book Critics Circle Award, and Rita Dove, who was a National Poet Laureate, and so many other authors. She's worked as a senior editor at Faith World, where she collaborated with senior staff to edit a whole wide list of authors like T.D. Jakes, William Young, and Vashti McKenzie. She graduated from the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. My people, hello.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Hey
It's good to
everybody, it's
have you
great to be
all. Good
here.
to have you all. Let's get right to it because I want to give you all as much time as possible. Thank you to everyone who has joined me on another session of Preaching and Preachers. And as you have come on, type in the name of another person who you know needs to view this broadcast. They can view it now. They can come on right now. They can catch it on my YouTube page. It will be up on Facebook for 2 weeks so they can view it in their leisure. All right, let me just get to it, because I want people to get as much information as possible because I always, every month, people come in my inbox to ask about publishing because they assume because you are published, you know everything about publishing, okay? Which is not so unless you are a publisher now, and I am not. Okay. I've given, your bit of your bio, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this question, but go ahead, just so that people have a clear understanding of who you are and tell us a bit about your work in publishing. Let's start with Reverend Hawkins.
Thanks so much, and again, I appreciate the opportunity to share. This is work that I love to do. So currently, like you mentioned, I've been in publishing in various forms of publishing for most of my career. Currently, I'm at Fortress Press, and we're an academic publisher. And so what I tell people that means, I can say that, and most folks don't even, they're like, well, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, think about the people that who go to seminary, your pastors or your deacon who might have gone to seminary, or people who are doing ministry and have the opportunity to engage in a certain level of training for that. I publish people who write the books that are in their courses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's a different niche than the books that people may be reading who are in the pew. So one of the distinctions that I find helpful is talking about pew versus pulpit
Mm-hmm.
as different types of audiences. So I am looking for authors who are writing for books that help train people for the pulpit or for train people for church and ministry leadership.
All right, all right. Uh, Katara Patton.
Great to see you, Dr. Simmons, and be reconnected since, like you said,
Absolutely,
you go way
absolutely.
back since the African American pulpit.
Yeah,
And
y'all see it up here on my shelf, right?
tap,
Yeah,
that's a
I just put,
wonderful resource
I
still,
just
right?
put it's
Still a
still,
wonderful resource.
it's still a wonderful resource.
Mm-hmm.
And Katara sat at the helm of it for many years. So, Katara, tell us what you're doing now.
What I am doing now is really kind of everything. I've dipped my toe in lots of aspects of publishing, so I feel like it's an honor to be here to share a little bit of information. I'm an editor, I'm a writer, and an author, as you've mentioned, of 8 books. I am also an acquisitions editor for Our Daily Bread, the Voices collection. And just in case people don't know, yes, Our Daily Bread, the little pamphlet that we receive free everywhere, has a collection that publishes our voices.
Mm.
amplifies the voices of African Americans. So you need to get to know that. In fact, a big part of learning is learning about your publishers, what they do and what they accept.
Do
Um,
you accept? Are you looking for people to write for that publication?
for the actual Black History Month publication, yes. The publication of Our Daily Bread, they have a select group of writers because it's very tight writing. They work with about 30 writers. But we
Mhm.
do rotate when somebody retires, we'll need a special voice to step in there. So it's great to be connected with the editors, just
Mhm.
to even see what they need and have.
Okay,
We also publish books, however, for
absolutely.
African American and the African American voice. So again, I've been all over the place from the inside the desk to outside the desk. And actually, Adrianne Ingrum was one of my first editors of some of those books. So I've worked with different people, as well as I've been a consultant, especially for people self publishing. So we can definitely get into some of those areas during our talk.
All right, all right, all right, Adrian, you're the elder. Tell us, what are you doing now?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Um, I have just joined, as you said, Serendipity Literary.
Okay, you're getting feedback. Lean forward and see if that will do it. Just stay still. Mm-hmm. Try now.
Is that better?
I'm not sure that feedback is coming from. Go ahead and keep talking.
Okay. I've just joined Serendipity Literary Agency, as you said, and thank you very much for inviting me to the podcast. I'm delighted to be here with two people that I just love. We know each other well. I'm actually looking for authors in my new role, and I'm looking for authors that are speaking to people in the pews. As Yvonne said, there's a difference between the pulpit and the pew. I'm looking for authors that will speak to people in the pews. And I want them to speak to them with new ideas, culture-changing ideas, with real authenticity, speaking about topics that are facing people, the people are facing today. So I'm really
Okay, unfortunately, we're losing you, Adrian. Your voice is, something is going on. We're getting an unbelievable amount of feedback. Do me a favor and go out and just come back in.
okay. I'm sorry about that.
You may need to use your headphones.
Are you hearing like a background noise?
Exactly.
Yes, I know what that is, and unfortunately, I'm going to need to use my headphones.
Yeah, go back out. Go back out. Just go, cut off and come back.
Okay, but I think I'm going to need to use the headphones because
Yeah, absolutely, that's fine. That is fine. Go.
I apologize.
No problem. Get your headphones, and we'll keep it moving. We will just keep it moving. Let me go to Reverend. Let me go back to Reverend Hawkins. Let's see what I got going on here. Okay, there we go. There we go. And Reverend not Reverend, but Adrianne Ingrum. She'll join us again shortly. So, people complain all the time. And I understand it because I know what I've gone through to get trying to get things published. Reverend Hawkins, today, not from 20 years ago, but right now, what are the main reasons you believe people don't get published? And what you've seen?
So that's really important because I tell people there's actually really no reason why you can't get published today. As opposed to 20 years ago, there's so many more avenues. Yes, there's gatekeeping, but there's the world of technology has changed the landscape. So one of the first reasons why people don't get published is because they literally don't know that they can't.
Mm, I like that.
And you can. You really, it's not a matter of can you get published. It's a matter of doing the type of homework to understand who's the right publishing fit
I
for
like
you.
that.
And that really is one of the biggest hurdles. And so a lot of times it's about educating. That's why this kind of conversation is so important. Um, the second reason is connected to the first. Is just being able to know the landscape. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many different types of publishers.
Right.
And so being able to understand, well, who are the people I need to work with, is a large part of the battle. Even in this conversation, you've heard that the three of us do very different type of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I've run into oftentimes is people will send proposals, and I'll say, "This is a great proposal. This is just not what we do."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I can think about recommendations, but I don't know everybody either. And so a lot of it is just about doing the legwork around, well, who publishes the type of things that I want to do, and how do I get connected to them?
And that's important because there are so many people out there with great ideas. They've written the manuscript, they've got great proposals, but they're sending it to the wrong people.
To the wrong
And they're
people.
getting one
Yep.
no after another, and
Yep.
they were sending it to the wrong places. So
Yep.
you really do have to do your due diligence and find out what companies are looking for. Typically, they have it on their websites,
Mhm.
or you can send Twitter messages, and there are other ways just to find out what are you all publishing now? What are
Yep.
you all publishing? Katara, Reverend Hawkins, were you finished with reasons why you believe people aren't getting published?
Yeah, I think those are the main reasons. But I think the other thing that, why people don't get published, has is connected to not understanding the bigness of the journey. So on one hand, I
Mm,
say that there's no reason why you can't get published. On the
mhm.
other hand, you got to understand this thing is not a small thing to do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, being prepared to navigate the hurdles, just like
Mhm.
anything, there are hurdles that
Yeah.
hoops you got to jump through. And so, knowing that, it's going to take a significant part of your life, I advise people to think about publishing as your new part-time job.
Mm,
If you want to get to the end of having that book, the that book published, it requires making space in your life. And so one of the early things that I'm listening for when, I'm talking to people about possibly publishing a book is like, are they ready? And I have
okay.
made recommendations several times to say, I hear you have a book. I
Mm,
think we're the right partners, but I'm not hearing that you're ready. You have so
all
many
right.
things going on in your life. Call me back
Mhm.
in a year.
Yeah.
I love it when people,
Because it takes a lot.
yeah, people often will approach me because again, they think because I publish, I am a publisher. Um, and that's not my role these days. But most of the people that I run into who talk to me about books aren't ready.
Right.
They don't know they're not ready, but
Yeah.
they are not ready. The time commitment is there. It's a real thing. It's a
Hmm.
real thing. And it's okay to talk to people about this dream in your head, okay? But the dream in your head is not a book, okay?
Correct.
It's not a book. This is a book. You see what I'm
Correct.
saying? So you
Correct.
got to be ready. Katara, what do you believe are some of the reasons people don't get published?
I definitely would reiterate all that Yvonne has said. I like to tell people, particularly when you're looking at a publisher, look at what they've already published. Like you said,
Exactly.
do your homework. You
Yeah.
should not be sending me a book that's very far to the left on issues that are very near and dear to the progressive Christians. That's not
Mm-hmm.
our lane. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand the lane that the publisher is in? What book on your shelf has been published? What is it
Right.
about? How is
Right.
it written?
Yeah.
Who is that author? Does that author have 5 books? Does that author is that author a new person? What is
Mm-hmm.
their writing style? Also, look at your proposal. I think you got to stand out as an acquisitions editor. My box is full, and I
Oh, I
try
hear
to
you.
give back to people. I really do, but it's so much. So what's
Yeah.
going to really
Yeah.
stand out? I used to have a good editor friend who said, "I read proposals on Friday afternoon." When I've been tired, I'm through the week. If
Yeah.
you got if your proposal stands out on a Friday afternoon, I'm gonna continue reading and maybe
Right.
freshly on Monday. So look at that sample chapter that you submit with this tells me often we jump to that.
Yeah.
Forget who this person is, forget all
Right.
they've done, how many followers they got. Of course, that's important, but I need to read that writing. Make that your best writing. Don't make
Yeah.
it just what you did on a Sunday afternoon and then you hit and send. Make that your best. So many reasons are people do have great ideas and they have it in them. They just need to pull it out and really get it down there and present their best effort. Again, they might also need an agent because just
Yes.
blindly submitting to publishers, you're going to the bottom of the inbox, unfortunately. So that's
Yeah.
just a few.
Yeah. Sometimes you might need an Adrian, an agent. Adrian, what have you seen? Why are people not getting published today?
What Katara and Yvonne have said, are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, is excellent. In fact, I have those in my notes. So I want to just emphasize, they've already said this, but emphasize that it is a business. Even companies that are not for profits,
Yeah.
it's a business.
It's still a
And
business.
so that for them to think about how books are sold, and books are sold via bookstores and online primarily.
Yeah.
So they need to think about how can the publisher get my book. The
Mm.
publisher acquires my book and publishes my book. That my book has to be able to work in bookstores and online.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that later on because I think there's some specific things that authors can do. So that they've got to think about writing what publishers are selling to a defined audience. But that does not mean changing your content. It doesn't mean changing what you believe, changing what you do, but it means targeting it in a way that will sell.
Yeah. If you want to be published by a particular publisher, um, well, I've heard all the reasons why, but I want to know, Reverend Hawkins, are people really buying books now? Meaning the typical author can expect to sell how many books? Are people really buying books?
People are buying books. People are always going to be buying books. I get it that the shift of the industry, the technological changes make people think that the book business is going away, and you see places like Barnes and Noble consolidating, and some of the other retailers going out of business. But people will always be buying books because books are always needed. The number of books sold, if you're thinking about that as an author, it always depends upon what type of book. What
Mm-hmm.
category are you in? Are you in an academic, like in my field, are you in an academic field, or are you in what we call trade? And having realistic expectations by the genre, by the audience type.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, that's a big deal as an academic editor, acquisitions editor, because our folks don't sell a lot of books.
That's
But
right.
and that's because of the market. So you think
Mm-hmm.
about how many people who are preachers or lay leaders, and you think about how many of them gone to seminary, and then
Mm-hmm.
you think about how many of them are in a particular category within that.
That's
So are
right.
you athletics or are you pastoral? And so when you start layering down and paying attention to your audience, in my world, those numbers shrink and shrink and shrink.
That's right.
And so for us, a really good book sale can be anywhere from 300 to 750 copies.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
like, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a home run. So in Adrian's world as an agent, that could be completely different.
Right.
Completely different. So
Right.
it's important for people to think about um what your target audience is, what your genre is, and being able to understand expectations from that point of view.
Hmm. Katara, uh, she says people are still buying books. They will be buying books.
Yeah.
Um, so in what you do, how many? Because I know you also help edit and all those kinds of things. How many books are can people really expect to sell now?
That's a wonderful question, and it's a scary question to answer just blindly, of course. May I just add that I think we need to also shift our focus to content creation. It may
Hmm.
be in a book, it may be an audio book, it may be a video. All of
Absolutely.
those ways attract people to you and your message. So it can even you may sell in my business. We need you to come in hitting 1,000 at the very very least,
Hmm.
because that's more of the trade types of books. There's
Hmm.
trade, and then like Yvonne said, the academic, which is much more focused, consumer oriented. Those books are gonna cost you more too in her
Right.
area because it's very specialized, and they have subject matter experts really preaching there. For me, a trade book, I need to prove that, just first of all, being in a publishing company, in order to pay for the overhead of creating the book, we're gonna need you to sell a couple of thousand copies to make it, because we do your editing, we do your book covers, we do your marketing, we do your printing. There's a difference. And then also, I know you're going to go there, Dr. Simmons, but self-publishing has opened up doors that people need to really start looking at and consider, especially your pastors. I have a great pastor friend I edit for now. Everywhere he goes, people are asking for his books. So
Yeah.
that's his market. His market is not necessarily Barnes and Noble, whereas
Hmm.
other trade publishers are looking for people who can sell through that. So for us, I would at least put you at 1,000 and higher. Our Daily Bread has a wonderful, unique function that we offer to our mailing list of millions. If your book fits in that piece, you have a whole new audience just by
Hmm.
publishing with us, because we're going to bring out a flyer to that particular group. So, yeah, look at us if you're in the thousands at least.
All right, all right. Look at you. All right, and uh, because I have self-published, and if I hadn't figured out how to sell 5,000 and up, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. But then there
Absolutely.
then
Yep.
then there are people who just did the book because they had something to say, they wanted it said, and that's fine too. And they didn't do it to sell 5,000, 10,000 like me. They didn't do it for those reasons. That said, and I'm hoping we get Yvonne back. I'm not sure what has happened. Um, Look like we
She's
lost.
moving, I think. She said she was getting a little feedback and she's moving to a
Okay.
different place.
Okay. So we can look for her to come back. Okay. So Adrianne, are people really, I mean, you're in the thick of this thing now. Are people really buying books? And so, and where in terms of what you do, how many can they really expect to sell?
I was so eager to answer this question. And I want to put it in context a little bit. Compared to the pandemic years, sales have waned. But we need to
Hmm.
understand that the pandemic years saw the greatest increase in sales in decades.
Yes.
So people were buying books. There was bookstores were opening. What we've seen in the last 5 years or so is this almost unprecedented.
Right.
And it combined with the post George Floyd era. So people were buying social justice, they were looking for answers. So the areas that we work in were just booming.
Yes.
So, yes, but that said, there are still, I agree with both Yvonne and Katara, there's a core group of readers that will always buy books and always have. but we can't judge it by what was going on in 2022 and 2023.
Exactly.
We have to
Exactly.
find those consistent readers.
Yeah. Yeah. Because,
And then
go ahead.
And then in terms of what authors can sell, there is no typical author. I agree with them completely. And I tend to be a how-to person. So what I think authors need to do is to see yourself in the genre that you're publishing into, because that will tell you if you're in that academic, pulpit section. You can find out what people in that genre sell. If you're someone who's writing for a wide audience of people in the pews, that's a whole different number. And there's a way to figure out what that number is by looking on Amazon, the Amazon page.
That's right.
Because so much of the book market is now Amazon. Some people like it, some people don't. But those Amazon pages give you rankings.
That's right.
You go down to the bottom and you can look at those rankings and find the other authors that you want to be on the shelf with. And I'll talk about that a little bit more on one of your coming questions. But who's your cohort? Who are the audience? What's the genre that you're publishing into? Look at books on Amazon by other people and see what their rankings are. And that will give you a sense of what you need to sell.
Yeah, that's one of the ways I figured out in publishing a minister's manual. Who had minister's manual out there? And when I found out there was not a Black one, I said, "Oh my God!"
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
Dr. Simmons, that's the key.
I'm on volume 2, okay, which is killing me. It's 500 or 600 pages. Has taken over my life. But I know that niche is open to me.
Absolutely.
Because there is no one else. And I can tell you why there's no one else too, after putting in this time. But that's what people have to do. You not only have to look at and I'm talking about people who are publishing and want to see numbers, right? You have to understand the analytics behind what it is you are doing if you are serious about doing it. And speaking of the numbers, Katara, do you need, I'm looking at the way people are talking about how you get published now and etc. Before I started self-publishing, I was getting these questions. Today, do you need good social media numbers, a following to get published in terms of, what you think about? Katara?
I would say absolutely yes. What those numbers are can vary. And I am more interested in what you are doing currently to grow them. It doesn't have to be at 10,000, 15,000 yet, but do you sponsor a live video for preachers and preaching and write books for preachers? Hello, that's extremely smart, and you're working your audience. Your audience is turning to you for content. So again, you may not be there yet, but let me see what you're doing. So,
and let me jump in there a quick second.
Absolutely.
Because it really does depend on audience and some of the things that Adrianne said pull over to this conversation. So, for instance, in the academic world, I could care less because that's not how academic books are found or heard about. You could have a whole bunch of social media presence, but if you're not doing lectures or if you're not doing workshops, then I might not be as excited about your capacity to reach your particular audience. Are you a member of academic guilds? How much do other people in adjacent guilds know your work? So that it really does connect to your audience and what are the channels that your audience uses in order to know about books and you get your books to them.
So in other words, it matters whether or not I'm on Twitter for a particular book, but it might matter more if I'm aware of the Journal of Higher Education.
Bingo.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And doing the kind of
Adrian,
work, right.
yeah, it matters. So, Adrian, with the terms of the work that you do people need good social media numbers, a following, etc., to get published?
Now, this is my view and from my experience. What you need is social media engagement,
All
not
right.
necessarily numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for a while, I worked at Callisto Media, which was a totally data-driven publishing
Mm-hmm.
operation. They were um, a technical company involved in publishing,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a list of what we were looking for in authors. And they're an email newsletter with a couple thousand subscribers, and I might have the numbers off, it's been a while since I've been there, what could mean more than 10,000 Facebook followers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
engagement on social media. And going back to what Yvonne says, is your readership on social media?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you want to, and if your readership is, and you want to engage with the social media that those readers are engaged in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All
And
right. Thank you.
can I back up? I didn't say something earlier that I think is so important.
Go
And
ahead.
Katara touched on it. We're not just talking about books. We're also talking about audio. Audio is the
That's right.
fastest growing genre right now. And it's important because readers are moving over to that genre.
That's right.
Yes, it's attracting some new people, the commuters, but there are readers that would have bought books that are now buying audio. Often they'll buy both. I hear this all the time. I've seen statistics though in terms of the reading market moving to audio.
Yeah.
But
It's totally shifting. I'm
it's
trying to see if I can find someone who can read a couple of my books, and because I know I don't have a reader's voice. Find someone who can read a couple of my books because people are shifting.
yeah,
You're absolutely
absolutely.
right. You're
And I can help.
absolutely
I can help with that. One of a couple of the leaders in that audio industry are Black women.
all
So
right.
and you know how we help each other. So
All right.
yes,
All right. I'm glad to hear
I can
that.
help with that. I can
All
help with
right.
that.
Glad to hear
Yeah.
that. All right. So you that's the numbers, etc. I really want to know just because and Katara knows this about me. I just go straight with no chaser. Is there a difference, okay, in being a person of color trying to get published and being a white man or a white woman for that matter, but definitely being a white man? Is there a different, Reverend Hawkins?
It always is. And I mindful that in just the last week or so I've been read a couple of articles. Like one was Connie Chung, who used to be
We remember her,
ABC,
the news
uh-huh.
report.
And she was talking about how the best advice she got was to uh, have the confidence of an average white man. And I was
Mm,
listening to another
yeah.
somebody else on Facebook who said the same thing. And, I've heard that over and over again. And so that does connect back to what I was saying in the beginning, is that a lot of times Black folks, our folks, don't know that we can do this.
Right. That's
We can
right.
do this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my conversations with Black authors is just about that. Now, listen, you can do
Right.
this.
You can do this.
You can do. We may have to, fill in some of these gaps in knowledge about the industry that gets
Mhm.
passed along in white circles in ways that don't get often passed along in our circles. Again, that's why these conversations like you're having are so important. Um, but um, but part of the difference then is it's filling in that knowledge gap.
Mhm.
How does it really work? And being able to share that information. So that's been one of my missions since
Mhm.
coming on Fortress Press, is to just like demystify how this works for Black folks, so that we can get our folks
Yeah,
published,
especially in the academic world.
especially in the
Especially in
academic
the
world.
academic world, because white folk have done a number on us and having us believe that we are not academic folk.
Right.
You can write a sermon, you can write a devotional, but you can't write an academic book
Right,
because
right,
of how they've defined what
correct,
is academic. So
right,
it's really important that we understand that.
yeah.
Katara, I want to ask you the same question. What's the difference you've seen
Oh
in
my.
being a person of color and being a white man?
Right. I echo much of what Yvonne has said and saying that it can be done. And I'm so proud. Look at this panel here. We
That's
have
right.
people there who can help you. We have people there who want to help you. The
That's right.
publisher at Our Daily Bread is an African American woman. The executive editor is an African American woman. Our content developer is an African American male. Tap into those resources.
That's right.
And then, if I may borrow Daddy Pope from Scandal, you know what needs to be done, right? We got to do it 2 times better. Come on,
Yeah.
it's still there. So make sure you check your grammar. Make sure you've had your stuff proofread. Make sure you bring forth your very best, because you're representing yourself. And unfortunately, you still representing us these days. So it carries a heavier burden. And when you get a good book out there, when
Mm.
you get them to understand and see it, they pay attention. They really do. But I would advocate for people like me in the industry working on my book. And that's how we get more of us there. I've had people say we need an African American editor for this book because our voice is unique, our style is unique, still excellent, but unique. And you need somebody to help bring that out and cultivate that, not erase it. So
Yep.
Mhm.
And Dr.
absolutely, it's different, but we can do it.
Yeah.
So,
We're running out of time, but let me get to a couple of last questions. Uh, uh, Adrianne, since you are the sage, tell me what you know people need to get published, other than getting an editor. What tell me the things you think today. I'm not, and we're not gonna. We know, audio stuff is out there, but tell me what they need to get published.
I have three things I want to bring out.
Okay,
One, and these may sound offbeat, but hear me out. Read a dozen books that you
I
want
like
your
that.
book to be on the shelf next to,
I like that.
or that you want the reader of your book to have already purchased, or that you want to pop up on the screen when people search for your book. Read them cover to cover. Read them,
Mhm.
because that's your community. That's your author community.
That's right.
Second, be clear what your book will add to that group in terms of its content.
Hmm.
That's your author community. Like you mentioned, there wasn't a book for Black people on this topic that you were writing about. We want everyone to find out what their community is and what their book will add. And then third, I would say spend blocks of time writing and revising. Someone said it earlier about just spending the time writing. This is not a weekend project and send it off.
No.
Do not think of it as a term paper or a thesis that you have to get done, but it's a passion project that you are devoted to long term.
All right.
Do I have a minute? I just want to give a quote. Walter Mosley talked about this process, and he said writing was a mistress that he loved to visit every morning. Writing has to be a practice.
I swear. It has to be. I woke up this morning writing. I'll end this day writing. And I just want to say to people, stop talking. Stop being upset. Stop whining about that no that you got, and keep writing. Just keep writing. You might be writing a newsletter, for your church. You might be submitting an academic paper. Just keep writing until you climb that hill that you're trying to climb. Katara, give me three things for anyone who wants to get published. Give me three things.
I love Adrian's. I wrote them down myself. One is take advantage of your network, these writers'
Yes.
conferences, meeting an editor. I met Adrianne Ingrum probably 30 years ago at some point now. We're really going to date ourselves today. And we exchanged cards and information. And that has flourished. And as I said, Adrianne gave me my first contract. So let's
Mhm.
be clear that that was extremely important. Know the craft. I know Adrianne's touched upon that, but that's extremely true. And know the business. This is a business. And one thing we haven't said, Dr. Simmons, that I think we got to share with the people. Don't expect to be a millionaire when you get your book published. Publishing is a business and it's based on a percentage, a very
Mm,
tiny percentage that
very
you're going to
tiny.
get. Naturally, you got your people who break through the glass ceiling.
Sure.
More power to you. That's wonderful. I just don't
Having the right agent helps with that. Just want to say that.
having the right agent probably will help with that. I'm just saying, don't think of it as a get quick fix, get rich quick fix. It's just like anything else we're doing in ministry. We're serving, and when it comes from the heart and from the passion, that's what you're doing it for. And hopefully, it'll take off and get into the right hands. But it's
And
only
but
about
if
that
it
percentage.
doesn't, if it doesn't make money, and I tell people, someone I know just got published by Oxford. Oxford only paid them 7%. 7%. That's all.
Tiny.
Seven.
Yep.
Seven
That's
7.
percent of the proceeds at that.
Exactly.
a
They sold that
proceeds,
book
right?
in at
7%
half price.
of
But
the proceeds. Oxford did the editing. Of course, they'll put out a little bit about the book, but of course, the person is the main one selling the book. But they got 7% because of the types of books that Oxford sells. So remember that in terms of making money and those kinds of things. And the average book is you're not going to sell more than 400 or 500 copies of the average book.
Dr.
Uh,
Simmons,
Adrian, go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, I'm burning to say something. Think of your book as a planet, one of the planets revolving around the sun. You are
Mm,
not writing a book, you are creating a copyright.
go ahead.
Copyright is the sun. That's how Disney, all these big companies,
That's
they don't
right.
say
That's right.
they're in publishing. I heard the head of Disney say this one time. We're not in the business of books. I was when I was all of it. He said, no, we're in the business of creating and developing copyright. So that's what the author is doing. The
That's
book
right.
is just one planet. The
That's
other
right.
planets are your lecture income, your audio income,
That's right.
other rights that might be sold off of that. So the book is just one planet. And while you may not make a lot of money on that one book, all added up,
There you go.
it can be a nice living. You're not necessarily a writer, you're a creator, you're a thinker. And your book is just one element of your copyright development.
I like that. I like all of that because I'm living proof of it.
Right.
Okay. Like
Your
say,
podcast, you're this, you're that. Yes, yes,
I'm living proof that,
yes.
you end up with lectures and all kinds of things and on radio shows and in the newspapers, etc. And that book is just one piece of it.
Yes.
It's just one piece of it, especially in the age of technology. Reverend Hawkins, tell us three
So,
things for
Katara and
anybody who wants to get published. She's at Portrait Press.
I'm at Fortress Press. Hawkins Y at fortresspress.com. You can email me. And Katara and Ingrum have actually talked about two of the three things that I was going to say. You got to know you got to know your audience and you got to know the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about that with authors over and over again. But the other thing that I often say is you got to know what a publisher is and what a publisher isn't
All right
in
now.
these days, right?
Mm,
And to think about it, the publisher isn't you didn't hire a publisher, and you are not our client. Think about it as a collaboration.
okay.
So you have assets that you're bringing to the table. The publisher has assets bringing to get to the table, and everybody's going to negotiate along the way. Just
Mm-hmm.
understanding the reality of what this industry is.
That's right.
Sometimes I get authors who think that who will come to us and say, "Well, I want this, that, and the other." And I said, "That's great. We'll talk about that." As if we're a printer. And
Mm-hmm.
so think
Yeah.
about the difference between a publisher and a printer. And so thinking about what type of publisher you
Right.
want to work with. There are all types of publisher. So if your goal is to keep a lot of control, we're not your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We're going to maintain some control over select areas, right?
Yeah.
If you want control over all the areas, then think about what publisher, and there are publishers who do that. And all of us serve a needed role in the broader industry.
Mm-hmm.
So being clear and aware of who's the right fit, who's the right partner for what you do, for what you want to do with your content and with your works is
Right.
probably the number one advice that I tend to give people
I
these days.
really like that because I talk to people all the time who don't want to give up any control, so they go and self-publish. And what they don't know is when you go and self-publish, you take on all the roads.
You take on everything.
You got to get the
Right.
EISBN
Right.
number. You got to do
Right.
the layout.
Right.
You got to get it edited. You
Right.
take on all the roads.
And
Right.
may I also add with that, when you're getting an editor, you need a team, basically.
You need a team.
One person won't catch everything. One person won't develop this to the core, to the crispness that is needed. In publishing at our houses, you got editing, developmental editing, copy editing, line editing. Then we proof it at the end.
Yep.
That costs more than $20, by the way, when you're looking at doing that. If
Well,
you want
you can't get it for $20. Let
You
me
can't
also
get it
tell all the people who are self-publishing now, you're not getting top line editing
right,
2 levels. You have to do at least 2 passes.
at least.
So I'm doing the Minister's Manual Volume 2, about 600 pages. I have 2 editors lined up. I'm an editor, and my partner is a reader. Pretty much almost an editor. That's 4 passes.
And everybody's contributing to the conversation in every single one of those passes.
Absolutely. Someone is catching, which is why you also need to know what kind of editor you need.
Correct.
Okay? You need to know. So think about all of those things for everybody, because I want people to publish. Yeah. Even if they have to self-publish, I just want you to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Know what you are doing. And there are great stuff on YouTube, all over the web, to tell you what you are doing now when you self-publish. Now, most of the time they're trying to sell you something, but you ain't got to buy anything, but you do need to pay attention to the steps. Just pay attention and well, our time is just about up. I say, Adrianne, give me any closing words you want to for people who are trying to get published right now, and they're trying to get the dream out of their head, okay, and onto a piece of paper.
Worry less about getting published right away and concentrate more on being part of the community you desire to reach through your publication and producing words on the page.
I like that. Reverend Patton, final word.
Use your resources. Speak to the editors. Speak to the people who have been published. Call them up. Ask them. Use the resources. They have lots of valuable information. And most of us love talking about the work, so you can get good information sometimes for free.
All right. And in email them, and if you don't get an answer right away, email again. Yes. You don't get that call right. I called them 4 weeks ago. Call them again.
No, y'all know how many emails and calls we get.
No, I just tell people, if you want something, go after it.
Yes, absolutely.
If you need information, don't be mad that the people got back to you slowly. Just get your information. Get the information. Reverend Hawkins, you get the last word.
Stay true to who you are. Especially for those in academics, I get a lot of people who think that they have to write for what white people want to buy, and I challenge them on that. It's like the person who wants to read your book is the person who wants to connect with who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Be you.
And you are not a white man
Right.
who studied Karl Barth all your life.
Right.
Be who you
Be who
are.
you
That's
are.
that's what the world needs.
That's what the
Okay,
world needs.
they need an awakened you.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been so helpful. Adrianne almost got me wanting to call her on the phone.
You can do that. You can do that. You have my email. So. And I want to add one thing when you were saying use your resources. There's only 6 degrees of separation.
All
You
right,
know somebody who knows somebody that you want to get in touch with.
Yeah.
You
all right
do.
now.
You
That's right.
you know, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah, everybody in the field.
Use those somebodies to get to that person.
I like that. I like that. This has been amazing. Thank you all for joining me today. As always, thank you for hitting my Cash App. Since you know I'm an independent scholar, join me next Monday at noon for a whole discussion on pastoring small churches. And as I always say, share the video. It won't cost you anything, and this video will help someone. Share the video. It won't cost you anything. God bless. Thank you, women of God, for all of the
Thank you.
amazing work that you've
Thank
done
you.
across the years and continue to do. God bless. Have a great week, everybody.